Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now. You want to talk about money? Real, jaw-dropping, rewrite the rulebook money? Then pull up a chair because what we are about to break down is not just the story of an athlete getting paid. This is the story of a human being who has, in the span of 8 years in Major League Baseball, become the single most valuable individual asset in the entire sports entertainment industry. His name is Shohei Ohtani. He is 31 years old. And if you think the financial story around him has already peaked, you have no idea what is coming. But let's set the table properly, because the numbers involved are so large and so structurally unusual that even the most financially literate sports fans sometimes get confused about what exactly is happening here. Ohtani's current estimated net worth sits at approximately $150 million as of late 2025, according to multiple financial outlets, including Celebrity Net Worth. That figure, while enormous by any ordinary standard, is actually somewhat misleading, and because the infrastructure of wealth that Ohtani has built and is continuing to build is positioned to produce numbers that will dwarf what he has accumulated so far. The trajectory is not just upward, it is nearly vertical. And by 2030, when Shohei Ohtani is 35 years old and still under contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers, the projections from sports finance analysts suggest his net worth could be somewhere between $500 million and $700 million, a figure that would make him one of the wealthiest athletes on earth. Full stop. To understand why, you have to understand the three distinct rivers of income that are flowing into Ohtani's financial picture simultaneously. There is the Dodgers contract, which operates in a way unlike anything professional sports has ever seen. There are the endorsements, which in 2025 reached a threshold that only 3 athletes in all of human history have ever cleared. And there is the compounding investment and business portfolio that a man who lives with remarkable personal financial discipline is quietly building in the background. Let's take each of these apart one by one, because every single piece of this story is extraordinary. Start with the Dodgers contract, because that's where most people's understanding of Ohtani's finances gets tangled up. On December 9th, 2023, Ohtani signed the most lucrative contract in the history of professional sports, a 10-year, $700 million deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. That number still staggers the imagination when you say it out loud: $700 million to play baseball. But here's what makes the structure of this deal genuinely unprecedented. Almost none of that money is being paid to Ohtani right now. Under the terms of the agreement, he earns just $2 million per year during the active playing portion of the contract, a number that would be embarrassingly small for a journeyman reliever, let alone the greatest player alive. The remaining $680 million is deferred. Beginning in 2034 and running through 2043, the Dodgers will pay Ohtani $68 million every single year. By the time the final payment arrives in 2043, Ohtani will be 49 years old and will have received the full weight of this financial behemoth, which, when you factor in the present value of money and the investment returns that $680 million sitting in escrow-adjacent arrangements can generate, is actually a smarter structure than most people initially realize. The Dodgers, for their part, brilliantly reduced the present-day luxury tax implications of the deal by deferring the bulk of the salary, allowing them to build the most powerful roster in the sport around Ohtani without being crippled by competitive balance penalties. Ohtani, for his part, gave up nothing in present value that he didn't make up many times over through endorsements and investments. This is a deal that works perfectly for both parties, and the fact that it was structured this way tells you a great deal about how intelligently the people in Ohtani's corner are thinking about the long game. Now let's talk about the endorsements, because this is where the Ohtani financial story goes from remarkable to genuinely historic. In 2025, Shohei Ohtani earned an estimated $100 million from endorsements, merchandise, and licensing deals alone. Read that again. $100 million off the field in a single year as a baseball player. Before Ohtani, the all-time peak for endorsement earnings in Major League Baseball was approximately $10 million, held jointly by Derek Jeter and the great Ichiro Suzuki. Ohtani didn't just break that record, he obliterated it by a factor of 10, and in doing so, he joined a club so exclusive that only 3 other athletes in any sport anywhere in the world have ever been members of it: Tiger Woods, Roger Federer, and Stephen Curry, each of whom cleared the $100 million endorsement threshold exactly once. Ohtani cleared it in 2025, and the trajectory of his brand suggests he will not only clear it again but may push well beyond it as his career continues and his pitching comeback adds a new layer of marketability to an already global phenomenon. The portfolio of companies aligned with Ohtani is staggering in both its size and its geographic diversity. On the American side, New Balance has arguably his most significant deal. Structured less like a baseball sponsorship and more like the kind of global shoe and apparel partnership that NBA superstars command. That deal alone is reported to be worth tens of millions annually. He has deals with Fanatics, the sports merchandise giant. He is inside Epic Games' Fortnite video game, making him the first MLB player ever to appear in one of the most played games on the planet. He added Beats by Dre and Seacom to his portfolio in 2025. He has brand relationships with Salesforce, Porsche, Hugo Boss, and Oakley. On the Japanese side, he remains the face of brands that represent the largest companies in Asia. Seiko, Ito-En, Kowa, Kosei, Japan Airlines, Konami, and Mitsubishi Financial Group. His is almost uniquely positioned among all athletes alive as someone who functions simultaneously as an American sports hero and a Japanese national treasure, a combination that essentially doubles his endorsement market compared to any other athlete you can name. LeBron James doesn't have Japan, Ohtani has both continents, and the brands know it. Consider the scale of what this means in dollar terms. If Ohtani earns an average of $80 million per year in endorsements from 2026 through 2030, a conservative projection given that he earned $100 million in 2025 and his on-field performance continues to be extraordinary. That is $400 million in endorsement income alone over the next 5 years. Add his $2 million per year in Dodgers salary, which adds another $10 million. Add conservatively estimated investment returns on his existing $150 million net worth at a reasonable 7% annual rate, and you are looking at another $70 to $80 million of growth from that base alone. The math begins to write itself, and it is writing a very large number. And speaking of his on-field performance, this is the variable that could push everything even higher because Shohei Ohtani in 2025 didn't just have a good year, he had one of the greatest seasons in the history of the sport. He returned from his second Tommy John surgery, a procedure that derails most pitchers permanently, and proceeded to put together a season so remarkable that the baseball world ran out of adjectives. At the plate, he slashed .282, .392, .622 with 55 home runs, setting a new Dodgers franchise record for the second consecutive year and leading the National League with a 179 adjusted OPS. On the mound, he made 14 starts, posted a 2.87 ERA with 62 strikeouts in 47 innings, and ended the regular season with nearly 17 consecutive scoreless innings. He was, by unanimous vote of the Baseball Writers Association of America, the National League Most Valuable Player, giving him 4 MVP awards in 5 seasons, all unanimous. That makes him the most dominant award winner in the history of a trophy that was first handed out in 1931. Then came October, and October, as it turns out, is when Shohei Ohtani becomes something beyond sport. In Game 4 of the National League Championship Series against the Milwaukee Brewers, Ohtani did something no human being in the history of professional baseball had ever done. He took the mound and threw 6 scoreless innings, striking out 10 batters. In those same 6 innings, while pitching, he hit 3 home runs. He hit a leadoff home run to start the game, the first pitcher ever to do that in a major league game of any kind. He became the first pitcher in history to hit multiple home runs in a postseason game. The Dodgers swept the series, and Ohtani was named the NLCS MVP. Then, in the World Series against the Toronto Blue Jays, which Los Angeles won in 7 games for a 3rd consecutive championship, a feat not accomplished since the Yankees dynasty of the late 1990s, Ohtani hit a 2-run home run in Game 1 and reached base 9 times in a single marathon Game 3 that went to 18 innings, 4 of those times via intentional walks. He finished the World Series slashing .333 with 3 home runs and 5 RBIs in 7 games. What does all of this mean for his net worth projection? It means everything. Because every MVP award, every historic postseason performance, every moment that becomes a highlight that gets shared 50 million times across social media platforms in Japan and America and everywhere else, each of those moments is a billboard. Each of those moments is a renewal clause in a sponsorship deal. Each of those moments is a new brand saying, we need to be associated with this person because this person is the most valuable real estate in sports right now. The $100 million endorsement year of 2025 was built on the foundation foundation of the 50-50 season of 2024. The endorsement years of 2026 and 2027 and beyond will be built on the foundation of 2025's two-way comeback masterpiece. The financial compound interest of greatness is a real phenomenon, and Ohtani is experiencing it in real time. Now let's examine the personal financial discipline piece, because this is a part of the Ohtani story that doesn't get discussed enough and matters enormously to any honest projection of his net worth trajectory. Shohei Ohtani is famously, almost unusually modest in his personal spending habits. He is not a player who owns multiple supercars or a fleet of private jets or a portfolio of nightclub investments. He purchased a 5-bedroom mansion in La Canada, Flintridge, California for $7.85 million in May of 2024, a figure that is essentially pocket change relative to his income, and a home that reflects practical luxury rather than ostentatious excess. He donates meaningfully to charitable causes, $500,000 to the Los Angeles wildfire relief effort in early 2025, previous donations to Japanese relief organizations, and to the Angels front office staff during the pandemic years. These are not the spending patterns of an athlete who will look up at 45 and wonder where the money went. When you combine that personal financial discipline with the kind of income streams Ohtani is generating, the wealth accumulation curve becomes almost unprecedented. Most elite athletes earn huge sums and spend large portions of them. Ohtani earns enormous sums and spends relatively little. The gap between income and expenditure, which is ultimately the only thing that determines how wealthy you actually become, is exceptionally wide in his case. His advisors, who include sophisticated sports finance professionals attuned to both the American and Japanese financial landscapes, are presumably investing that gap wisely. Even the most conservative investment assumptions produce eye-watering numbers over a 5-year horizon. So, what does the realistic net worth projection look like for 2030? If you model out the next 4 years using what we know, roughly $80 to $100 million annually in endorsements, $2 million per year in Dodgers salary, continued investment of existing assets at reasonable market returns, no catastrophic injuries, and continued elite performance that sustains his commercial value, the projections from sports finance analysts begin to cluster somewhere in the $500 to $700 million range. The more bullish projections, which assume his endorsement value continues to grow as he approaches the end of his playing career and his Japanese and American cultural footprint deepens further, push toward or beyond the $700 million mark. That would make him functionally a billionaire in waiting, because the $680 million sitting in deferred contract payments begins flowing in 2034 at $68 million per year. Here is the number that frames everything. If Ohtani arrives at 2034 with a net worth of $600 million and then receives $68 million per year for 10 years from the Dodgers, while his investments continue compounding, the billion-dollar threshold is not a fantasy. It is a mathematical inevitability, barring catastrophe. He will be the first baseball player in history to become a billionaire, and he may do it by his early 40s. He would join a club that, in American professional sports, currently has only a handful of members, primarily Michael Jordan and LeBron James on the playing side, with various team owners and golf figures rounding out the list. And yet, for all the staggering numbers, there is something even more significant about the Shohei Ohtani financial story. It is not just about how much money one person is making. It is about what that money represents. Ohtani did not become the most valuable athletic brand on earth by accident or by luck. He became it by doing something that virtually everyone in the sport told him was impossible, by refusing to choose between pitching and hitting, by working at the intersection of two completely different skill sets simultaneously, by winning at the highest level, doing things that no one had done since Babe Ruth himself walked into Yankee Stadium a century ago. The money is the market's way of saying, we have never seen this before, and we will pay whatever it costs to be associated with it. The brands understand this. Japan understands it. Los Angeles understands it. And as the decade winds toward 2030 and Shohei Ohtani stands at 35 years old, still playing the game at an elite level with a bank account that is growing by the hour and a deferred fortune waiting in the wings, the rest of the world is beginning to understand it too. The 700 million man, the unicorn who became an empire. The Japanese kid from a small town in Iwate Prefecture who arrived in the United States barely speaking English, won 4 MVPs, 2 World Series, and rewrote every financial record in the history of his sport. He is just getting started. If this breakdown blew your mind, and it should because this is the most extraordinary financial story in professional sports right now, hit that like button and let us know you were here for it. Drop a comment below and tell us, do you think Ohtani becomes a billionaire before he turns 45? I want your predictions in the comments because this community always brings the most interesting takes in baseball. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you are missing out. We cover the biggest stories in the sport with the depth and the detail they deserve every single day. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and we will see you in the next one.